intake page. You can also forward it to.
Yeah. Woo. Are we live? Yeah, we're live. Hey guys, you know as we're getting ready, as we're arranging stuff, and we want to start at 7 sharp and get going. Today we're in my friend Ali's house, and so we're gonna get there. No time. I'm so glad to be here. Yeah, say hi to our guest out here. Woo! Guys,
Ali's a bit camera shy.
yeah.
Well, hi guys, it's a pleasure. I'm honored to have my brother here,
Yeah.
Yodi. Yodi is a brother. I still remember when we first crossed paths.
Yeah.
At the time, we were both sobbing at the school.
So stubborn. Yeah, that's how
It's
it got
funny.
started.
I was in the hallway. He saw me. He came to me and said, "I think you're African."
Yeah. Because you were talking to that kid, that child. I don't know what he was doing, but he wasn't paying attention to
I
you.
see.
And you were talking about your accent
I
and how kids, and
I
we'll
think
get
that was-
into that
yeah,
later as well.
yeah,
So
but
I think we are going to.
yeah, but since he's been a brother, so it's an honor to have him at my house. And
Thank you for
hopefully we're
having
gonna have a very interesting and fruitful conversation.
Yeah, we will. We have a lot to share. Maybe about 2 seconds here. Want to make sure there's anybody jumping on yet. Not yet, but that is okay. Man, you got a good. When's your last day of school for you guys?
It's gonna be next Friday.
Next Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about you guys?
Today was the last day. Oh, you still have another week?
Yeah, I have another
Wow.
day. Yeah. It's mostly gonna be celebrations.
Okay, yeah.
8 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that we have the kids in class. It's just celebrations and
Okay. Let me see why I'm not able to. Okay, let's go. We should be good. We got this plate here. We give a few more minutes for people to jump on here. We should be able to. There we are. All right, we are on. I'm going to share this to my feed. And I'm going to give about 30 more seconds and we will jump into this conversation. It's going to be recorded so that way people can see it.
that's it.
And I'm sharing it now. Cool. Is that your son right there?
Yeah. That's the big one.
That's the big boy. All right, it's on my page. Good. Man, I am again so glad to be here. I know you're camera shy.
Oh, yeah.
Even trying to invite you to one of our panel discussions, it was really challenging. But you're a lawyer, man. You talk in front of people. You're a community advocate. That's what you do.
Oh, I got the tissue here. I have a piece of tissue. Can I grab one of these?
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead. Let's just say
Yeah. So why are you what's this camera shy?
I think probably it goes back to the African spirit of humility.
Okay.
And I'm not conservative, so when
Yeah.
it comes to technology,
Yeah.
technology is a feature. I like connecting with my people without the camera.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
nowadays, you want to reach
A lot more people.
You can reach
Zoom
them
call.
physically, yes. But what I prefer is to face to face,
Mhm.
like talk to my people and connect with them.
Yeah.
That's our history, that's our heritage.
Okay. Well, that's
The world has advanced.
Yeah.
I think I have to
catch up with them. Okay. All right. Don't worry about it. People, we're just having we got one person. Nope, nobody yet, but it doesn't matter. We're just having a conversation here, Ali. So you just speak. We want to project our voice because we're a little bit out here, so we can speak loud and clearly. We have the Sierra Leonean flag right there, and so we're just gonna jump. First of all, I'm gonna tell you what. We're having a meal together. So Ali's wife prepared a meal for us. So what did she prepare real quick? Can you show our guests here? See what this right here. What did she got here?
Yeah,
We definitely got the watermelon. That's what you do, yeah?
Watermelon. Ginger beer.
Ginger? Ginger beer. Non-alcoholic, y'all.
Non-alcoholic.
Ginger beer.
Yeah, any Sierra Leonean listening to us, we connect with them.
Yeah.
We also have fried rice. So she
Fried
made
rice
fried
right there with corn.
it's corn on it.
Spicy. She kept telling me it's spicy.
Really spicy.
Okay.
We also have chicken.
Some chicken right there. Okay.
So
So we'll definitely be eating and parlaying because I want to make sure if I'm coughing, I hope we have some water here as well and some. Why don't you pour some ginger beer?
yeah, let's do that.
Let's do that, man. Let's get this
We did warn you that it is spicy. We see a
a lot of spice. I think spice is really Africans love spice. There's some people who don't. Like the Zambians are not spicy.
Oh, really?
I think that's too spicy for that. Yeah,
Really?
Yeah, that's
I didn't know that.
that's what I think.
Yeah, we like that spicy. We do.
Oh, Equal. Oh, Equal is watching. She jumped on. Oh, she is. Hey, what's up, Equal? You guys do the panel discussion together?
Ah,
Equal is on here. So, can you hear us? Give me a thumbs up because I can see you right here. So, good. All right. So we have the meal going. Again, thank you for being in your home. So we are in Ali's home, and we're about to enjoy the meal. But I'm gonna ask questions so he can talk and I can eat. All right. I can eat. Okay, she's giving me a good thumbs up. We're good. We're good. Make sure we got voice. All right. So Ali, let's get down to the first question here. Tell me a little bit about. Let's start with your background. What country are you from? Obviously, we can see the hat. So what country are you from? And what was your upbringing in the country you're from?
thank you again, Yodi, for this opportunity. Truly appreciate it. It's always an honor, privilege to talk about Africa. I'm very, very passionate about where I come from. So to answer your question, I'm from the beautiful country of Sierra Leone in West Africa. We're known for our peacetime beaches and just the natural beauty of the country.
Yeah.
Comparatively in terms of population, for those who don't know, Sierra Leone is a small country.
Yeah.
Population is about 7 million.
Okay.
But the people are known for their, friendliness.
Okay.
That's the Sierra Leone spirit. Very warm, very welcoming, and very religious tolerance. In a world that is very polarized, we all hear the news, and I think that's one thing we can learn from Sierra Leone.
Yeah.
We live in harmony.
Okay.
Irrespective of your religion. So I'm from Sierra Leone. It's an honor.
Okay. So what's the background? Well, that's about your family. Let's talk a little bit about your family. Parents, siblings, your wife, children.
I grew up in Freetown, which is the capital city, and I come from you call it a lower middle class family.
Yeah.
I come from a very humble origin. Hardworking families. My dad worked at the national airport. We only have one airport in Sierra Leone.
Okay.
My dad worked there as a security officer. And then my mom was a stay-at-home mom, like most African moms. She stayed at home and took care of the family. So I have 9 siblings. Okay. I should say 8. One of them is deceased, unfortunately. So I have 8 siblings. I had a beautiful childhood, despite the Civil War, which was a big, interruption. But I would say I have a lovely, wonderful childhood. My mom is here visiting in the States, but she went to Maryland.
Okay.
And, I wish she was here.
Yeah.
And for the last 6 years, I've been living here in the United States, and I have 3 kids and my beautiful wife, who made this food.
Man.
Yes.
The Nigerians are gonna like you.
We did warn you that it's
You didn't warn me though. You didn't warn me. But and the ginger beer's got a little kick to it too. You know, that's good. Well, why don't you get yourself a plate and we put it down here? You eat, man. Yeah, let's do that while you're doing that. So, okay, 9 siblings, Sierra Leone. Give me a little bit about the history, because what's the national language of Sierra Leone?
So our lingua franca, the language that everyone speaks, is
Yeah.
Creole. Creole is spoken English.
Okay.
So it's
Because you were
mixture.
colonized by the British, though. The
We
British
are,
was what
yeah.
one British colony. Yeah.
Exactly. So we were colonized by the British on, say, 1961 when we became independent.
1961. Okay.
Yeah, so our official language is English, but our local language, I mean, the lingua franca, which everyone speaks, is Creole.
Okay.
But we do have about 16 different types.
Yeah.
And among them, the most predominant are the Mendes, Timonese, Limbas, Fullers, and Madigas.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna put this underneath once you get some chicken. So got a little bit about your background. I think we'll weave that back into it, because I want to really spend a lot of time talking about the work you do, because it's phenomenal, and I think it touches subjects that we within the African diaspora are talking more and more about. So, what brought you to the States? So you were married. Did you have all your kids there, and then moved? Did you come here for education? What's your story that brought you to the United States?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So
You're gonna-
well,
I'm gonna go down there. Okay. Good. Yeah.
I was called to the bar in Sierra Leone in 2016.
So as a lawyer.
As a lawyer.
So your educational background is in law.
It's in law.
Okay.
I should have made mention
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
So I went to Flabe College where I two bachelor's degree. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Linguistics and Political Science, and I have a LLB degree, which qualifies you to become a lawyer.
Okay.
And I completed my legal studies in 2016, and I was called to the bar in the same year. And I started practicing as a lawyer, which for somebody like me, I mean, coming from a very humble beginning, you know, I think it's the same for most countries in Africa. You know, law is still elitist space. You know, it's mostly people who come from wealthy families. You know, yeah, those are the
Keep going. I'm sorry. We can stay on subject.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, against all odds, you know, I was able to become a lawyer, and the story behind that also has to do with my childhood.
Okay.
You know, like I said, I grew up in the Civil War, and I saw firsthand what happens when corruption and injustice, you know, gets out of hand.
Yeah.
I think those were the root causes of that Civil War.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was a brutal civil war.
It's
Because
brutal.
was that going at that same time as Liberia's civil war?
Yes,
Were they running in conjunction?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, the two were related.
Yeah.
And, you know, the former president of Liberia, Charles Taylor, was indicted by the Special Court for Crimes Committed in Sierra Leone.
Okay.
Yeah, so they were very related. But, you know, from 1991 until 2002, we fought a brutal civil war. And I grew up seeing that war firsthand. And I think it's had a lasting impact on me. You know, but I saw the abuses faced, especially by women and children. And so that was what got me into law. And on a personal side, I lost my dad when I was 9. And what happened was, based on our culture, tradition, you know, when a man dies, his property goes to his family, you know, not the wife and the kids.
Not the wife.
Not the wife,
Goes
not
to
the
the
kids.
family.
I have to clarify that it differs from tribe to tribe,
Yeah.
you know, under our customary law, but predominantly that's the law. When a man dies, his property goes to his family and not necessarily the wife and kids.
Yeah.
And I was now when my dad passed away, like I said, I had 8 siblings, you know, and I saw firsthand the challenges that my mom had to go through. And I grew up, you know, thinking this cannot be right. You know, this, you know, I love our culture. I hope we'll have time to talk about the beautiful side of our culture.
Yeah.
I feel like that is one area where we need some changes. You know, treating women as second class. I mean, that's not, you know, it's not a good thing for a country. And I saw that firsthand, and that left in me a distaste for injustice.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's pushed me into human rights, it's pushed me into advocacy. So, even as a law student, I started interning with a non-profit organization back home in Sierra Leone.
Mhm.
It's called Advocate, and their job is to support women and girls who come in conflict with the law.
Yeah.
So I was an intern with them, and my work was going to police stations and going to prison, teaching about human rights. So when I became a lawyer, it was natural for me to go into human rights advocacy.
Okay.
So I did that from 2016 to 2018. Got a scholarship from the Irish Aid Fellowship Program. So I went to Ireland, studied for a year.
In Ireland.
In Ireland, yeah.
Ireland. I'm gonna try Irish accent. So you have to Sierra Leone to Ireland.
I went.
Yeah.
And it was it was a wonderful experience.
Mhm.
Think about poor child coming from Lungate, Northern Sierra Leone.
Okay.
Who saw the Civil War firsthand, who grew up without that, and who saw all the challenges this man went through, injustices and all of that. And I was able to qualify as a lawyer with the support of my family and community back home in Sierra Leone. And then I won a scholarship, went to Ireland. The plan was to go back to Sierra Leone and contribute to our criminal justice system.
Yeah.
But in 2016, right from law school, I got married to the love of my life.
Yeah.
Who was living here in the States.
Okay.
And so in 2018, she thought it was a good idea to come here to join her.
Okay.
And out of love, here I am. And, since 2018, 2019, I've been here. Wow. And now we have three beautiful, wonderful kids.
Yeah. We're still out at the park right now, but hopefully they'll come back and say, hey, we're in your home. If the kids want to come and run around, so be it. They can come and join us. If they want to be on camera, whatever. So you talk about, let's stay in Sierra Leone. You are dealing with, I'm going to get some more. My mouth is now accustomed to the spice.
I'm hungry.
Eat it, man. Let me talk that. Yeah. We're talking about that too. So you're, so the injustices, particularly with your mother, could you give an example, if you're willing to share, what type of injustice particularly? So one, you mentioned that the land, any properties would go directly to your father's family. Was that the case, or was it other type of injustices that you saw in your particular situation?
So, I'm sorry.
No, take it right.
And I think under our customary laws, and I'm speaking, we have differences, in the city, like in Freetown, it's a bit different.
Yeah.
But mostly in the provinces, like I come from Lungi, that's northern Sierra Leone. The cultures are a bit different. But there's a common thread that when a man dies, so customarily, some cultures consider woman a property.
Okay.
Yes. So when a man dies, the woman is part of his estate. So the woman is a property herself.
Okay.
So a property cannot own property.
Yeah.
It's the man's brothers. They are the ones who administer his property. And my dad passed away in 1995. And I have to point out that Sierra Leone has made some developments in this respect. In 2007, we passed a new law. It's called the Demolition of Estates Act. Okay. And what it did was to correct this injustice. Under the Demolition of Estates Act, now a woman, is able to claim the property of her deceased husband. Okay. However, because of lack of knowledge, because of problems with access to justice, people still find it difficult to make that law a reality. So as I speak, there are still women who, when their husbands die, the property still goes to the husband's family. So in my case, my dad was not a rich man. He was a security officer at the airport. But this was a man who had worked very hard for over 30 years. And, he had some few stuff, let's put it that way. And then when he passed away, there was a whole issue with the family.
Yeah.
Because his family said, according to our custom, his property goes to his family, not the wife.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud of my mom who fought back.
Yeah.
And I think part of my strength is just seeing my mom, standing against these powerful forces.
Particularly in that culture, and I don't think it's just Sierra Leone alone. I think that happens throughout different cultures in Africa.
I think
that's
so.
one of the things that I think that's being addressed, as you said.
Yeah.
Because of the cultural, and then there's the civil law. And so those come, as I understand, and butt heads at times.
They do.
Yeah.
I was going to say, in my experience, culture is more powerful and stronger.
Okay.
And it takes time. You might change the law in the books.
Yeah.
But the guy in the village, you're talking about the law in the city. The guy in the village is going to do what he's used to do, what he's seen his family, his ancestors did before him. That's one challenge we have.
Because that's a mindset, a changing of a mindset perspective, but also changing of the heart as well. And those take longer time in processing.
It does. And you and I are also educators, and we know how difficult it could be.
Yeah.
To change
The whole mind.
Exactly.
Bro. Brother. The school today, man. The school ended today. So we're both teachers. We'll touch on that. So my school, today was the last day, and there was a lot of crying and all of that. And your guys are finishing next week. And so let's take it up to you got your degree in Ireland, got married, came to the US. And did you continue practicing law here? I mean, of course, did you continue practicing law here, or what was your next steps coming to the US as far as career and livelihood?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not qualified to practice law in the United States. I'm qualified to practice law in Sierra Leone, but not in the United States. And when I came here, I attended Southern Methodist University.
That's
SMU Dedman School of Law. Yeah.
Okay.
I did my master's there in, comparative and international law. And that qualifies me to take the bar in Texas. And I've attempted it once. I was a few marks short, so I'm still thinking about taking it again. But with the family in America, it's just so difficult.
It's a court system. We talked about that. It's not the same as back home.
Absolutely, it's different, But like I said, I've done my master's here, but that's the requirement. You're already licensed attorney from a Commonwealth country, and because the US has a Commonwealth legal system. Okay. And Sierra Leone is a Commonwealth country colonized by the British, just like the United States colonized by the British. So we do have the same legal system, but the similarity is limited. I mean, I've seen things here which are unheard of in our legal system. So if you're already licensed in a Commonwealth country, when you come to the US, you have to do a master's degree, and that's master's. You can't be any type of law master. You have to do certain specific subjects. I'm sorry. You have to do certain specific modules. And I did do that. I met that criteria. And so it qualified me to take the bar exam. And I did take it in 2023. Okay. Like I said, I was a few marks short. Yeah. So I'm still entitled to take it again.
Yeah.
With the family, with a full-time job.
Okay.
It's.
Well, let's so you weren't able to do that. So how'd you get into teaching? Because we met as substitute teachers. How was that journey into teaching?
For me, I think that's a reminder about the trade-offs we do whenever we leave Africa to the States.
Trade-offs.
Yeah.
That's a good word, trade-offs.
Yeah, here was a guy who was doing something he loved back home. I wasn't paid a lot of money, but I felt like I was making a difference. Like I said, I worked for a non-profit called Advocate, and their job was to provide legal support, free legal support for women and girls who come in conflict with the law. And my job was to basically make sure that women who are charged with offenses don't go to prison.
Yeah.
Because one thing in Sierra Leone is that when a mother when a woman with young kids, suckling mother, when she's convicted and sent to prison, we don't have a separate place to put the young kids. So the young kid will be in prison with the mom.
So the children are in the prison
With the mom, which breaks my heart every time I think about it. So, and with the clients we dealt with back home, most of them, I mean, we had some exceptions who are charged with violent offenses, but the majority of them were charged with, offenses that has to do with, most of them are traders. And they will go, they have families, they have young kids to feed, and they will go take a loan and they can't repay this loan. Because when a mother takes a loan from the bank and then they have a kid who is sick, they're not going to worry about the bank. They're going to worry about their kid. Yeah, take the kid to hospital and use that money. Even though it was a loan, they're going to use it to pay off their hospital bills, to buy medication for their kids. And when they can't pay back the money, in law, this should be a civil issue. In the United States, if I don't pay my loan, nobody's going to take me to a criminal court. To be a civil issue, they're going to charge me interest and I have to pay them on time. But back home, what will happen is these women will be arrested by the police, will be charged to court on offenses of obtaining credit by false pretenses or fraudulent conversion. Sometimes they'll be sent to jail for 3 years.
3 years.
3 years. For money as little as $50. They'll be in prison for 3 years. So for me, doing that job, that was the difference. I would go to court and that would be the difference between a woman spending 3 years in prison and going home to their kid. So I wasn't paid a lot of money, but I felt like I was making a lot of difference in my community. And then, I came here and like I spoke about trade-offs, and I don't regret it. Like I said, I have a beautiful wife and you've met my kids. So it makes it worth it. But for anyone listening to me, thinking about coming to the beautiful United States, the most powerful, wealthiest country in the world, I think these are some of the things we don't talk about. That when you leave your country, no matter how poor it is, you should be ready for the trade-off. So I went into teaching because I've always loved teaching. Because my job home was not just as a lawyer, I was also teaching human rights. Because the belief was that you can't defend your rights if you don't know your rights. So I'll go to communities with market women and sit with them and teach them their basic rights. Tell them if you are arrested by the police, these are your rights. These are the things the police cannot do. So I've always loved teaching people.
So you held, take some bites while I'm talking today. So you held a lot of those, I don't know, what seminars or just in the marketplace? You would just go to the market and get women together. So just ad hoc, just bring them together, no organization around it, development around it.
We had some organization around it because we worked with other local organizations.
Okay.
And so we partner with our local organizations and organize this community sensitization. Sometimes it will be in prison. So I'll go to the prison and the women are already there. We give them, provide legal services as well as human rights education. We work with, local community leadership. These are the chiefs, the tribal heads to do our legal education and sensitization. But the point is I've always loved teaching. I think for me, those are the two things that I'm really passionate about. Being a lawyer and being a teacher. So when I came to the United States, that was one thing that I was attracted to. And for the last, how many years now? 2-3 years, that's what I've been doing. And, all about teaching, the challenges.
We'll talk about that.
But I love it. I think it's a good career. Especially in the community that I teach in. I teach in a Title I school, schools that are in deprived communities, kids who look like me, and I feel like I'm making a positive difference.
Well, let's go to that and work our way backwards, because I remember, and you mentioned this earlier, I remember how we met. Because I'd seen you in the school I think that was over 2 years ago. I'd seen you and I said, I know that brother's African. He died. I know it. And then one day I'm in the hallway and I look over and I see you talking to this young black kid. I don't know how, he might have been maybe 10, 11. You're talking to him and he's not really paying attention to you. And so I'm like, let me walk over there and just kind of hear what's going on. So I walk over and you're talking to him, he's doing all this, and I interject. And sorry I did, but I'm glad I did anyway.
I'm glad.
And told him that he needed to get his act together and start respecting the teachers and respecting what is asked of him.
Mhm.
And I think that led us when we had a lunch break, that you mentioned something that I like, can speak about is that some of the kids didn't respect you because of your accent, right? It was, I mean, like, who is this guy with this foreign accent? So can you share about those experiences within the school system?
Yeah, so, earlier I spoke about the dark side of African cultures,
Mhm.
like, considering women as second place.
Mhm.
I don't want to use the word inferior, but
Mhm.
that's the impact, that's the mindset. But we do have a lot of, beautiful, beautiful cultures.
Mhm.
And one of the things I like about our culture is our respect for age, our respect for
Elders, yeah.
I did most of my schooling in Africa, and I know how different it is.
Yeah.
Back home, the teachers have all the authority, and students have no say. Which is it absolutely a good thing? Probably not. I wish we have a situation where students could speak up more. But I come from a culture where what the teacher says is final. You don't question. We even have something we say, well, we'll be and complain later. You can
Obey, complain later.
You can't challenge your teacher. And I find myself now in a culture where it's the reverse. Students are almost absolutely on the lines. They have all the authority. And what I've learned is that none of the two systems works well. In Africa, because teachers have so much authority, it might lead to abuse. But here in America, because the kids have so much authority, it can also lead to chaos. And it makes it impossible for learning to take place. And I've learned to experience that the best is, having a balance, and like you pointed out, when I first started as a teacher, that was one of the challenges. It was a mindset thing.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I am the teacher. I should be able to tell this kid do X, Y, Z. And student not listening to me. Now I'm kind of, I hate to say I'm used to it, but it no longer surprises me. You almost expect it. And I'm glad, that was how I met you. I was talking to a student. And the fact that I have a very strong African accent, I've been here for 6 years now, but I think I'm so African. The accent doesn't go away. And I think accent should be something we celebrate. So it's a reminder of our differences, and difference is cool. But this kid, I was apparently telling the kid to do something, he wasn't listening to me, and my brother stepped in, and for whatever reason, he listened to my brother. And as a teacher, any teacher listening to me, especially
Speak to the teachers, man. Teachers, listen up.
And teachers, I would like to see your comments. That's some of your tools for the use with.
If you have any questions, this would be a good time to start interjecting with some questions, putting some questions if you have anything, so we can try to answer them. Well, so
now I haven't been a teacher for how many years now? 2 or 3 years. I've had my own classroom. This is sort of my second year having a classroom of my own.
And you're certified, so you went through the entire teaching.
Oh, I'm still doing my certification. I passed my content exam. I'm now working on completing my certification.
Okay. So what grades do you teach? And what subjects?
I teach 8th grade US history. Last year I taught Texas history. Okay. Which is funny. Imagine a guy from Lunge Sierra teaching Texas history to 7th grade. This year, teaching US history to 8th graders.
Yeah.
I have to say, despite the challenges, I mean, any teacher listening to me, some parents also know the challenges of the school. I mean, I have to say, I absolutely love my job.
Okay.
I do. I mean, you know,
And that's not to interject. I mean, that's great to hear, especially in a system where a lot of teachers, I don't say a lot of teachers do love their jobs, but they're very disappointed of the education system. A lot because a lot of authority
absolutely.
hands with children,
It's-
and then and it's not really a lot of they feel administration is not supporting them, and that they're not really teaching. They're doing so much administrative stuff that they're not really teaching in the classroom as much as they do. So education has changed over that, but that's good to hear that you love what you do.
I do. I think once I start to understand my kids better, you know, I teach 8th grade. I have about 182 kids that I teach.
Okay.
You know, once I begin to understand that every kid is different, once I begin to look past the behavior, that behind the behavior, this kid is acting up because of sometimes reasons that have nothing to do with the classroom, you know, because of what is happening back home. And once I begin to understand that, you know, the challenges have not gone away, I think I've been able to be more empathetic and more patient with my kids.
Yeah.
And I've learned that when the kids know you want them to succeed, when they know you're on their side, you are their teammates, you know, you're not there to chastise them, to make them look bad. I feel like, you know, they begin to respect you more. You know, unfortunately, it doesn't mean the challenges go up.
Yeah.
You know, even today, it cost me out. It's like,
Cuss you out.
cost me out.
You want to be like, boy, take something out. You can't do that. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, it was absolutely unjustified. You know, I think a lot has to do. Some of the problems I face has to do with my background. I come from a place where education is a privilege. You know, we have it's now. You know, you have families where people have to sacrifice so much to send one person to school, and that person who is sent to school has all the responsibility to make the best use of that, you know, opportunity. And here, for example, you know, our kids are given Chromebooks. You know, I got my first computer when I was in the university. I think I was in 3rd year. That was the first time.
University.
3rd year, I was able to hold the computer. I didn't think it was mine. It was my cousin. I needed it to do some work, so she borrowed it to me. You know, I borrowed it from her.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, in back of my mind, you know, when I see kids breaking Chromebook, like it breaks my heart. Like you know, we have a situation where our kids are given Chromebooks, and you know, today one of the kids just threw it on the floor, and I'm like, would you please pick it up and plug it in? And he said he was not going to do it, and I said, please pick it up, you know, just put it in the cart and plug it in. And this other kid came and started cussing me out, you know. So I mean, this is just one kid, you know. I have 182 kids, and the majority of them, you know, they're not perfect, just like me, you know, but they have good behavior, they listen, they're respectful, you know. So I think that's another thing I've learned, that you have to accept that this is just 1%. This is an isolated incident.
Yeah.
But as an adult, as somebody who's used to, you know, speaking in courts and being listened to back up, you know, having a kid talk to you that way, it's really hard.
It is hard, right? It messes with your ego. Yeah, I'm a lawyer back in Sierra Leone having these discussions, defending women against the abuses of my culture, and doing a great job. And now I'm in the United States teaching and getting cussed out by this individual here. And you have to really begin to have a good bandwidth of patience and understanding. I like how you said it gives you, for you, you're learning because it gives you perspective, vantage point, because you have to know the American lifestyle, how kids grow up here as well. Right? We know how Africans grow up, we know how Americans, and so they're just acting within the cultural norm.
Yeah.
And so once you begin to understand that culture, then you can maybe begin to make some impact in the way that you see fit. So let's talk about impact. How do you think your African heritage has been an impact for your students? Have you seen any of that? Examples of students kind of horizons expanded because they're like, oh, our teacher is from Africa and he teaches, we're learning about America, but he intersects things like that. Have you seen impact on their lives because of what you bring from your cultural background?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because it's an opportunity to talk about one positive thing I've seen about the American educational system.
Yeah.
And that is the confidence and curiosity of the students. I'm not going to speak on behalf of all Africans, or I feel qualified to speak on behalf of Sierra Leoneans.
Okay.
And I come from a school system where the teacher sees everything and students listen and we obey, we don't question. Here, kids are going to challenge you, they're going to ask you questions. And that's one thing I really love to see because it means I have to be at my best. Because they're going to ask me questions. And so being from Africa, they've been, they've always been so clear. Some of the questions have been offensive,
Bring on that. Give me an example. I bet I know some of the offensive questions here. Give me an example.
Are you sure we can go?
We're all right, man. We're here to talk about it all, right? What are some of the questions? I don't think our audience, as Africans who grew up in this system, they can handle some questions. Yeah.
If you're an African, you're going to be a teacher in an American classroom. You need to have all the patience in the world. Because your kids would ask you stuff sometimes you're like, where did that even come from? And the funny thing is sometimes the kids who ask you those questions are kids who look like you. Maybe it's out of curiosity. And for me, it also goes to show you the level of negativity that is shown about Africa. Which is one thing why
narratives, the stories that they have,
exact
things they have seen,
that they've seen,
or the lack of interaction with somebody.
Absolutely, I think I steal the unknown continent, and that's why I'm proud of what the African think tank is doing to spread awareness that Africa is not. It's not a dark place. Africa is thriving. We are doing well. We do have our challenges, just like any other place in the world. But some of the narratives, some of the stuff that, it frightens me. Some of the questions, and I am 100% African, and on Friday, it's funny, like, dress to school in my African culture.
Oh, man. You were in a whole...
Absolutely. So even today, I had a keyboard.
What do you call it in your hotel?
We have Ghana, we have a lot of them.
Okay.
But typically back home on a Friday, be in a traditional African costume.
Okay.
And here I haven't changed. I do the same
on Friday.
On Friday. So today, kid asks me, "Oh, where's your African cap?" I'm like, "No, it's not Friday. Today it's not Friday."
so they know. They know. They're not on Friday.
They know.
Yes. What do they call you, Mr.?
They call me Mr. Ali.
Mr. Ali. Okay.
My name's back home. I'm Mr. Koroma.
Koroma. Yeah. Okay.
But here it's a bit difficult.
Just take that up. It's gonna keep talking. I'll fix it. You don't want to, You can keep sharing. Keep on listening. Yeah. All right. We'll hold this.
So they shorten it to Ali.
Okay.
I go by Ali. They call me Mr. Ali.
Okay.
And so for me, being a teacher has also been an opportunity to change the mindset about Africa. Whenever I have the opportunity, I've been able to spread some good news about our continent. And that doesn't mean I've been deceptive because we have to face the hard. The reality, reality is we still have wars in Africa. We still have hunger in some part of Africa. That should not be happening. That's our reality. But the reality is also that we have places in Africa that are thriving. We have companies, startups. And there's so many other good things happening in Africa. And whenever I have the opportunity in my classroom, I've been able to share that with my students. And I think they've had more respect for me because of my authenticity. And it took them a while to get used to my accent. But now I'm so glad that, they really understand me.
Has the respect level gone up
Absolutely.
Okay.
You know, every now and then, it
Yeah.
goes all the way back.
It goes up and
All the way back, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, what did I
What said.
you know, but like I said, being a teacher,
Yeah.
I know the teachers listen to me with thinking.
Yeah.
But I think, especially in America, you need special people to be teachers.
Mm.
You know, the things I've seen here back home, it's even unthinkable.
Mm-hmm.
But back home, I remember when I was in elementary, you do something at home, they will go, they will go report you to your school, and your school will punish you for something that's happened at home. Yes. You know, for example, me when my dad passed away, you know, I told you my dad passed away at 9. And so sometimes, you know, when my mom wants to, you know, make the consequences even more serious after being dealt with at all, you know, they will go report me at school, and that'll be another new consequence. And it's something common that we used to do back home. You know, am I proud of that? Probably not. But I think it instills in me a special level of discipline and respect for authority, which here, you know, doesn't happen. I mean, your kids would ask you all sort of questions, you know, they will speak out their minds. And it's a beautiful thing, but sometimes it just goes a bit too far.
So it's the asking of the question, but sometimes the wisdom to say, how do I ask the question? And when do I ask it? When's the right time to ask the question? And I agree with that confidence piece because I think the education system in Africa, because I was also a teacher and the principal of a school in Africa. So, you know, trying to build confidence in students to ask questions, to engage. I could see that in our teachers, that they weren't able to do that because they were part of that education system. So they never knew how to. I was a director and I would say something and it'd be like, what is your I mean, I'd ask a question and say, can I get some feedback? And they wouldn't know how to get feedback. Those are things you have to teach. You have to learn. And as a teacher, you're teaching, but you're also learning. And so you have these two educational systems that have emphasis in different areas. And so you're in a position to see those and to find a way to maneuver in that tension as well. And I think, you know, what we're doing with the African Think Tank, our Cultural Bridge initiative, I think you're familiar with that, with the one where we're teaching a lot of the African culture as a way to keep our kids, our African kids who grow up here connected to the culture. And that's important. But I'm going to say, well, how do you keep your kids connected to the culture back home? Because that must be, because I grew up in America when I was 4. That's why my accent, you know, is what it is, and learn about the culture. And when I moved back to Chad, it was really, really difficult, that transition. So, but my father and mother really did a lot to keep the culture within our family. Number one, they did not speak to us in English when we were growing up here. They only spoke to us in Gambai. So regardless of what we said, they always spoke. So at least what happened is we were understanding the conversation, even though we were responding in English. So when we went home, we could at least understand the conversation. So you have 3 kids here, growing up here. And I think you shared this with me, you know, you're seeing some of the American culture in your children. and how are you navigating that? The good, the bad, the challenging, the good, the bad, and the ugly,
I mean, you know, so like I said, I have 3 kids. My oldest moved to the United States when he was 10. So he's only been here for like 3 years. And I remember when he first came and we enrolled him in school, when I would pick him up, the teachers would line up to say, "Whoa, your kid is so well behaved."
Yeah.
You know, because he was so Africa. He was so well behaved. And he's been here for 3 years. Just last week, I had to go to his school because there was an issue.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, can I relate on the American system, education system? Maybe. You know, maybe he's losing some of those cultural traits that we have back home. You know, so, and I know he's now 18. He's a teenager. You know, he's 13. He's gonna be 14. So, he's in that age where he's got to find himself and, so I also understand.
Plus, he's got that two cultures as well. He's got the African culture home and the culture. So he's trying to navigate
absolutely
that space.
That space.
Yeah.
He's got to fit in,
Yeah.
friends,
Yeah.
to be cool.
Yeah.
We did not know what cool was.
What cool?
What cool are the different meaning for us, Here, I see kids only want to talk about who has a Nike shoe. Your hairstyle. That's what kids want to talk about. But to answer your question, I'm doing my best to keep my kids grounded in our culture, especially my two young ones who were born here. One is 4, the other is 2. And, it's something I'm constantly striving to do, which is challenging because the American culture is so powerful.
It's powerful.
It is
a powerful culture.
It is a strong dominance culture.
Yeah.
And so, and the fact that we live here in America makes it even more challenging, but it's something we're working on. And it's funny because my youngest, who is 2, they can understand our local language. For my 4-year-old daughter, she's so American. When you hear her, and I have a friend who lives very close by. And whenever I go to his house, his kids are so, they speak the local, they've never been to our Sierra Leone, but they speak his native language. Well, I'm like, whoa, how does he do it?
Yeah, they speak at home a lot or around the Sierra Leone community as much as
and I know their grandma was here with them for a while, and I think that's also contributed, for all those Africans listening. I think that's one thing we all can do better in. We are lucky to find ourselves in this part of the world. When the first country in the world, the most powerful, it's a privilege. But the fact is, our culture is our strength. And you've heard me talk about some of the dark side, like depriving women of property, when their husbands pass away, probably not to the entire part. Africa, I think it's something that happens beyond Sierra Leone. But we do have a lot of positives about culture. And I don't think we should lose sight of that. And the challenge for those of us who left Africa and come here is, how do we keep our kids grounded? Because I think that's what makes us stand out. And in my school, I'm the only African. And whenever I walk, I feel like I'm representing the whole continent. I feel like I'm doing a good job. Because
you are. I would say.
I feel like I've seen more positivity. I felt like it's okay to be different. I can sound different. I can dress different. And probably that's another thing I have to say about the American culture. At least I've seen a lot of tolerance. People have embraced me, despite my kids, and they call them my kids. My scholars, and there's always that one scholar is gonna cuss you out.
They cuss you out, huh?
That kid cuss me out.
Oh, that's
I
all
was
right.
standing there thinking, oh my goodness, in Africa.
That's all.
In Africa, these people are. But something like that will happen in a school. But here, that's the reality. That's why I have so much respect for teachers. But here, they do an incredible job. And unfortunately, there's a lot of burnout. And teachers quit. And teachers calling. Because it is a lot. Like you said, sometimes you don't have all the time to even focus on teaching content. And all those other stuff you have to do. All those documentation, all those behavior issues, and here we have kids who have documented medical issues. Back home, I didn't even know that. All the dyslexia, all the special education programs. It doesn't mean we have people with those conditions back home. I think because we have less resources, we haven't made provisions for them, which is sad. But here you have to be cognizant of all those kids. Who has an IEP like that? What are their accommodations? What are their modifications? You're teaching the same class, but you have to differentiate in the same class. So I'm teaching a class of 36 kids. In that class, I have some kids who have to have different materials from the other class. They have to have different type of questions. I have to scaffold my question. I can ask them the same question I'm asking the other kid. And so it's just so much for the teacher.
No, thank you. And we are getting close to our 8 o'clock. So we want to try to start at 7. Because sometimes when we get into these, that's why I love having the conversations. The time goes so fast, which will allow us to bring people back again and talk about some specific issues. So when we bring you back, I definitely want to talk on the subject of law in Sierra Leone. And I know you've interacted with the law with other countries in Africa, what we can do to improve it. So we're going to try to hone in on that. So just finishing up, we talked about what advice, again, would you give to Africans in Sierra Leone and on the continent? You may have shared this, but we may share it again, is when they want to come to the US, what are the things they should consider when they come? And then when the Africans here, how can they be a support to Africans back home? Maybe that's a long bit. You got about 2 minutes to answer that question.
So for those Africans thinking about coming to the United States, I would say, be very clear about your goals. Okay, be very clear, like, what do you want? If you are somebody who, is chasing money, I mean, I don't know, but I don't see a lot of money, for people like me. We all depend on the Bible business. If you come into a full-time job, I doubt it. So be very clear about your goal. If you're living in Africa, making a difference in your community, and you're somebody who likes to have that feeling of satisfaction and making a difference, maybe it's better for you to stay home. And having said that, I know there are Africans who want to come here because of their dreams, and we have far more opportunities here. It's unthinkable the amount of opportunity. And the American dream, it's becoming smaller and more difficult for people like me. But I think, the American dream is still possible. So if you're thinking about coming to the United States, you're in Africa, I think it's worthwhile, but I just think you should be very clear about your goals, because I think one of the biggest problems is expectations. When I was in Sierra Leone, I had a completely different idea of what America was. And then I came, I didn't know there were poor people in America. Sometimes I'm driving, I'm seeing homeless people, and nobody told me about this. But maybe it's because it came back to the power of the media. So I think it's the same thing. Like my kids asking me questions about, do you have pets in Africa? And I think it's because of what's been shown about Africa. And it's similar to me. When I came here, I did not know poor people in America. I thought everyone was rich. I mean, that's the image they sold to me. And so just be clear about your expectation. And I also think, America humbles you. That's humbles you. It does. America is so powerful. The culture is so pervasive. It's so, that it humbles you in ways that it takes you a while to get used to. Imagine me coming from Africa and having been a lawyer back home, coming here and starting all over. And nobody cares about who you were. Back home, nobody cares about that.
You did my desk. Okay.
Back home, there are people who, based on their names, we have those spoken for them. Just based on their names. You come here, nobody knows about your name. So America humbles you. I would say when you live in Africa, just leave your ego back there, because your ego is not going to work here. And finally, I would say just stay true to your culture, because America is going to push you, in terms of the culture here is so powerful and strong. They're going to make you question yourself. You know, sometimes you begin to second guess yourself, your confidence goes away, your identity, you know, we are a minority. You know, you go to places, you speak, and people look at, you know, what is he even saying? You know, so it makes you begin to doubt yourself. And I think the only thing that will help is when you stay true to your community. So when you confine your community, I know we've had rumors about, oh, Africans can be divisive, they're going to pull you down. About people who say, no, I don't want to be with my African community. I think that's a mistake. I think your community, they're not perfect, but that's your community. So whether you're Ghanaian, Nigerian, my brother here, we spoke that, find your community. It's even better if you're connected to the African community. And I know the African think tank is doing a fantastic job. We have our mixes monthly, right? You know,
yeah, one the 29th, Thursday 29th. Come and join us.
Comments.
You were he was a panelist last year, and we're gonna close with this because we're over. What was your experience as a panelist when you were a panelist of equal? She had to leave, but
she is really. You know, I think that was a very great experience. It helped me in a lot of ways. Like, reminded me that, you know, there's nothing wrong about me. But sometimes that's what America does to you. It makes you begin to question something wrong with me. You know, but going to that conversation with the African teams, being in a room where you don't have to second guess myself. I was here with my family. People from the continent. You know, it's kind of instilled in me my lost confidence. You know, that was the experience. And I was lucky to be in a panel with Dr. Equal. It's absolutely brilliant. It was a wonderful experience.
Well, we enjoyed it. People still talk about that panel discussion and everything. So we're going to end here because it's 8:00 and we want to respect time. Again, this will be, you're able to watch this again. But we love doing the TATT talks. Just gives us an opportunity to have an hour conversation with individuals from the African diaspora who have attended our mixers at the African think tank, who have been on the panelists, who have worked with us. And again, we will be bringing them back for continued discussions and everything like that. So again, we're going to sit here. We're going to enjoy some watermelon, maybe some more of this, right, man? This is spicy. You saw me, you know, like, woo! You did. I was born. And what's the ginger beer? Show it to the Sierra Leoneans, baby. That's their thing. So West Africa in general. We're gonna enjoy that. We're gonna eat some watermelon. Thank you for joining us. Next week we're not having a TATT talk. That is our mixer. So the next TATT talk will be in the month of June next month, right? April, May, with June. So thank you, and you have a good rest of your day. All right. Cheers, man. Thank you, but that was great. So I said we got it. Ooh, look at you right here. Right here. Look at ooh, ooh, ooh. There you go. Perfect.